So Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German Lutheran pastor. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was born in 1906. He died in 1945. His father was a psychiatrist and neurosurgeon. His mother an educator. He was one of 7 children, all very educated and intellectual. They spent many, many hours in intellectual debates at their dinner table. His father wanted him to follow in his footsteps and become a doctor, practice medicine, practice psychology. But at about the age of 13, Dietrich's older brother was killed in World War I. And it was about that time that he decided he wanted to become a theologian, that he wanted to become a priest. And of course, his father was not too happy with that choice, but eventually they supported him. And along the way, he was educated, he became ordained, and began to serve as a local associate pastor in a Lutheran church, and began to really share the faith with others. But it was in about 1930 he came to the United States to study at the seminary in New York City, okay? All right, Union Theological Seminary, that's what it was, okay, in 1930. And it was while he was there that he began attending a church in Harlem, the Abyssinian Baptist Church, pretty much an all-black congregation. And it was while he was there that at 24 years of age, he had a conversion experience, is what people call it. Prior to coming to the United States, he knew God. Well, he thought he knew God, but he sort of knew of God. He had incredible knowledge about faith. He had incredible knowledge about God. But it was while he was there that the knowledge wasn't so important, but he started to learn about the incarnation and incarnational theology, as we like to call it. It was while he was there that he started to see this community and how they treated each other, how they responded to their position in life. Now think about that, 1930 in Harlem, a lot of persecution, a lot of oppression, a lot of poverty, a lot of mistreatment. But he watched how they overcame that suffering, and each time they would come together would celebrate and take care of each other. It was there that he started to live his faith, as he calls it. It was there that he began to have, as he called it, a robust faith. It wasn't just being religious, but it was now beginning to live it. Now, if you know more about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, after that year or year and a half of study here in the United States at Union Theological Seminary, he headed back to Germany. Early 30s, if you know your history, what took place? But that was the rise of Hitler and the Nazi regime. Well, he came back with this robust faith, and he began to watch what was happening to the Christian church in Germany. And he immediately became a part of the resistance. He became a part of the challenge to say, we need to go against this. He was one of the first ministers to, on the radio, actually challenge other Christian churches to start going against what the Nazis were preaching or directing people to do, what Hitler was encouraging. And he was cut off from that. He began to be a part of kind of an underground resistance. In 1944-45, he was a part of a plot to assassinate Hitler. Of course, that faltered, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer was arrested along with the others. And in 1945, he was hung in execution. Some of the eyewitnesses said that he carried his faith right to the end. He was in prayer right as he was going up to be prepared to take his life. He was a true martyr for his faith. Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote a book that was called The Cost of Discipleship. The Cost of Discipleship. And the reason I kind of share this story about Dietrich Bonhoeffer today is because I think, in some senses, I was beginning to reflect upon this gospel and this message today. I wonder if Dietrich Bonhoeffer at one point read this Gospel of Mark, and it was one of the things that kind of motivated him to change his life and to embrace a robust faith. No longer was God just head knowledge, but God was something that was here in his heart. And he began to realize the importance of discipleship, the discipleship that Jesus talks about in this particular gospel. Of course, we've got James and John in their arrogance. They stand up and they say, hey, we want to be here, and we want to be here. We want to be number one, right? And of course, what does he say to them? Can you drink the cup? Can you drink the cup that I'm going to drink? Can you be baptized in the way that I'm going to be baptized? They said they could, but they didn't understand that. They didn't understand it because they were kind of focused on, we just want to be number one. We want to be seen as leaders. We want to be seen in authority. But Jesus said, look, true discipleship, true leadership is centered in servant leadership, where you give of yourself first, where you serve the other person, where you reach out and say, I'm going to take care of you first before myself. The cost of discipleship is not always easy. That cup of which he was asking, can they drink? Not an easy cup to drink. But yet, he was challenging them and challenging us. And I look at Dietrich Bonhoeffer and I look at his life, and at that point where he began to understand what living your life was all about, what living faith was all about, he said, you can either have that robust faith, or you can just be religious. What do you want? The robust faith changes lives, changes this world. Religious, it's okay. Like I always like to say, yeah, check the box. Look it, I'm here, it's Sunday, I'm good. Dietrich Bonhoeffer challenged people, and Jesus challenges us, to say, let's not just be religious. Religious takes care of this world right in these pews. But the world that I really need you to go out and do something in is the world beyond these doors. This is good. Like Mike even said, this feeds us. This prepares us. This prepares us to have that robust faith. But the thing is, it's up to you to say, I want to have that. Like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he knew it all. He knew it all until he came and saw that community taking care of each other and celebrating in the face of suffering, celebrating in the face of persecution, drinking that cup that they knew was difficult, but yet they still worshiped and believed in their God. When you become just religious, Dietrich Bonhoeffer called that cheap grace. Cheap grace. It's confession without penance. It's baptism without commitment. It's communion without discipleship. He calls us, Jesus calls us to take it up, be fed, go out there and live it. The cost of discipleship is not easy because you know what? In our own families, sometimes we're rejected. At work, sometimes we're rejected. Maybe we're a young person at school and we want to share our faith, but we're afraid to because somebody might laugh at us. That's the cost of discipleship. It's not easy, but we're still called to do that as Christians because it changes the world. Dietrich Bonhoeffer embraced that, and that's what gave him the courage to stand up against oppression, to stand up against an evil, to stand up against a world that he said was so contradictory to the gospel. Yes, he lost his life. Yes, we might. Maybe not like him, but little bits of us will be torn apart. What do you want? What do we want? The cost of discipleship is not easy. I guess in the end, do you want the robust faith, the robust life in Jesus Christ? Or do you just want to be religious? I challenge you. I challenge you to embrace the robust